your life to come, you'll find yourself in relationships, and there'll be pain that you're experiencing, and maybe that's an important sign that you should leave that relationship or change the relationship. And you might feel pain in a job, and that might be important feedback that you should leave the job. It's not always important feedback. Ask your parents before you leave anything. You're going to go back and find yourself in school, and a very common pain response that people experience in school is something called boredom. And when you reflect on why you're feeling bored in school, there's so many reasons why you might. But one reason is that they're not. You might find that the people around you are not pursuing truth as zealously as the instructors here at Reason and Rationality. So I wouldn't undersell that as an explanation. I just want you to reflect on that explanation. When you come back here next to Reason and Rationality, the drive and the zeal with which you're arguing for the truth and trying to discover the truth will be just as strong as it was this year, and you'll rediscover that it's an awful lot of fun to do it. All right, and with that said, on to the Reason and Rationality truth-seeking instructors.
So, hey everyone, I'm Joe Schmid. I just finished my third year here in the philosophy department at Princeton University. I'm a PhD student. I work in metaphysics, philosophy of mind, philosophy of religion, and one of my favorite things about this week was definitely when, and I say this a lot, but it's just so exciting when it happens, when students independently land on like new and interesting moves in the philosophical literature made by professional philosophers themselves. And it's just so exciting. So, Katie, today you had so many good points in the problem of evil discussion. The problem of evil is basically the problem of if God exists, why is there so much suffering in the world? Why does suffering seem pointless, etc. And one theodicy, one response to that, which attempts to pinpoint some justifying reason that God has for permitting evils in the world around us, is what's called the soul-making theodicy, or the character growth theodicy, which is basically saying, hey, maybe at least a lot of evils are justified, maybe God's justified in permitting evils for the sake of character growth and development. In other words, cultivating and manifesting virtue. And maybe suffering is sort of required for that, or maybe wrongdoing is required for that, Manifesting forgiveness requires you to be wrong. Being courageous requires there to be some kind of threat, etc. You get the point. And one of the examples that we gave earlier in class was when, like, a toddler was no one was actually harmed in the thought experiment, okay? But a toddler was decapitated as a result of a person driving over them, okay? So that was pretty bad. And one objection that came up to this soul-making theodicy was, well, hold on a second. It doesn't seem like the toddler developed any virtue as a result of this. The toddler is dead. The toddler is gone, you might think. Well, Helena comes in and says, one response to that came up was, sorry, not Helena, that was Katie, my bad. You can see how much sleep I'm running on. One response to that soul-making theodicy, that objection to the soul-making theodicy, is that, listen, maybe the toddler's death, maybe the toddler didn't develop the toddler's virtues as a result of this, but maybe that gave other people an opportunity to manifest and develop virtues as a result of this, comforting the parents, etc. And then Katie says, oh wait, hold on a second. Wouldn't that involve God using the toddler as a mere means for basically developing other people's virtue, for bringing about goods in other people's lives? And doesn't that seem wrong in our class on Kantianism that we talked about? So firstly, connecting stuff up with other classes was super cool. And then secondly, this is an objection in the literature to the soul-making theodicy. And then one response to that we talked about in class was that, well, maybe it's okay to use people as means under these deontological views, under Kantianism, if the person consents to it. And so we were thinking, what ways could God secure the consent of the toddler? And we talked about maybe hypothetical consent, we talked about maybe posthumous consent, but we also talked about premortal consent. So maybe we sort of existed prior to our bodies as these disembodied souls or intellects, and maybe we were presented with the risks that we could get if we become embodied, and then some people, we just consented to it, all of us consented to be here. And so then God's not actually using the person as a mere means, they actually consented to it. And then Katie comes back and is like, does that mean there are no takesies backsies? And I was like, oh, this is the biggest objection to the premortal consent response. It's like a lot of people have difficulties with thinking that there can be these kinds of irrevocable consent. it seems like you should be able to revoke your consent if someone's like saying, maybe I agreed to this in the past, but can you please stop? And we further responses to that, but I was just really proud of Katie. And this happens so many times with so many of your students, your children. It was just amazing, and I love it. Okay, so thanks.
Hi, I'm Amos. I'm a oncoming second-year master's student at Oxford doing philosophical theology. I think just copying on from what Joe said, sometimes not only did students sort of keep up with the philosophical literature, but they outpaced it, so they just came up with entirely new things that I never thought of and that nobody had ever thought of before, and that just happened every single day. Literally just in the last class, again, solutions to the problem of evil. One idea that came up was like, so we discussed in an earlier class a concept called the utility monster. So it's a monster who just gets loads and loads and loads of utility from eating people, and the positive utility gain outweighs the disutility of being eaten. And so isn't this a problem for utilitarianism? You might think that everyone is obligated to just jump into the mouth of the utility monster. One thought was maybe we were considering God versus Satan theodicies. And one explanation for why God let Satan cause so much evil on the earth, even though God could stop him, is that Satan might be something like a utility monster. So it just really matters that Satan gets his desires satisfied, and that just outweighs the suffering that he causes, which was so cool. And then we were thinking also about maybe different ways that we might alter the hypothesis that God exists to make the observation of certain evils less surprising. And my thought was maybe we could put a limit on God's power, and we thought about different ways to do that. And then one idea that came out that I'd never thought of was like, maybe God is just like every other creature that we've observed, and just gets tired, right? So it's really hard to make the universe. Well, it's a lot of effort. And then on day 7, he's trying to stop stuff, and it's just too much. This just happened every single lesson, every single day, and it's so cool. I'm constantly hearing new ideas. It's as much an education for me as it is for everyone else, if not more so. So thank you so much.
Yeah. I guess you know who your favorite is. Yeah, I would just like to echo how
Who are you?
Oh, my name is Flo Backus, and I'm a PhD student in philosophy over at Harvard, up that way.
In heaven?
Like up.
I see.
It's above New Jersey.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were like,
You know how space
stepping the direction.
Have you ever looked at a map? It's literally above.
Right.
Anyway, I would just like. That's so funny. Sorry. Forgive me. Anyway, I would just like to also echo that it's really impressive when you guys respond to arguments in just the right ways. Instead of just sort of saying stuff, you really attack the arguments at their roots. What's so funny?
Sorry.
I forgive you. I really enjoyed teaching consciousness this morning, and I believe it was even both my classes where when I presented Mary with an argument, so super genius neuroscientist who has only ever seen black and white, sees red for the first time. She knows all the physical facts, but it seems like she learned something new, so it seems like there's a non-physical fact. So not everything can be physical. And just immediately when I make that argument, people are like, well, yeah, she learned something new, but it's not a fact that she learns. Which is exactly one of the very common responses in the literature. That Mary does learn something new, but it's not propositional knowledge, it's non-propositional knowledge, knowing how to ride a bike. It's not an item of information. And then it seems like less of a threat to the idea that consciousness is physical. And yeah, just that happening in a lot of the cases. And moreover, I really, really appreciate just the passion and seriousness with which you all are approaching this matter. I can tell when somebody who could hypothetically be one of my undergrads is just taking a class for the credit, and when they really feel the force of the questions and want to figure them out. And I can tell that you guys are generally in the latter group, and I really appreciate that, and it makes it so fun to do philosophy with you all.
Hi everyone, I'm Sagar. I'm also a PhD student at Princeton in the philosophy and religion departments. I just finished my third year. This is my first time teaching reason and rationality. Yeah, I mean, to echo what Flo said, so I also taught consciousness today. I taught it twice. And on top of everything that has been said, students figuring out exactly the right arguments to say, students coming up with new things, I'm just always amazed to see students definitely outpace, I think, my comprehension ability of seriously difficult philosophical topics, like compared to how I was at their age. And just like watching the light bulb moments when they actually get how an extremely complex, an argument that lots of like trained philosophers don't get until it's explained to them like 5 times or something, and they don't really get why it's valid or which premise it is that they think they're contesting. And seeing students, like in the consciousness class where I went through 2 arguments, one argument for physicalism, the causal closure argument, and one argument for dualism, the conceivability argument, which is really difficult to wrap your head around. And in both classes, I saw that when I talked about the conceivability argument, I guess since we're all talking about philosophy, I'll talk about the conceivability argument. So the conceivability argument runs like this. Consciousness can't be the same, it has to be non-physical, because we can conceive of all of the physical facts having been the same, and yet there having been no consciousness. And if that's true, and conceivability is a good guide to possibility when it comes to our concepts about consciousness, which is one of the premises of the argument, that it is a good guide to possibility in that case, then the fact that we could imagine everything being the same physically, but consciousness not being present, means that consciousness has to be non-physical. Now, this argument has a bunch of moving parts. I mean, what is the notion of conceivability that we have on the table? What's the notion of consciousness that's on the table? And in one of my classes, we distinguish between phenomenal consciousness, the way that it's like for you to be experiencing something, and access consciousness, what you have the ability to report on or to think about, and to make distinctions between these things. And I just saw it all the time, and this wasn't just this class, it's throughout the program, students just picking up on very fine-grained and subtle distinctions that are required to make certain arguments get off the ground, and then clearly understanding the logical connections and how these premises, when they jointly together entail a certain conclusion, even when they're pretty complicated. Seeing students just figure this stuff out and seeing the light bulbs go off in their head when they got it, just amazing to me, always.
I'm Noah. I'm also a PhD student here at Princeton, and I'm just inspired by the enthusiasm with which you guys pursued the answers to the questions we posed over the last couple of weeks. I'll just mention 2 people who I think are particularly enthusiastic. I think everyone else will agree. The first is Elliot. Elliot, where are you? Yeah. Every time I made a claim that Elliot found dubious, I could immediately tell, because he sort of tilted his head down, and he just his eyes opened wide, but his brow was still low, and he just his mouth opened. He was and he just bore a hole through my head until I finally was Elliot, what do you think? And then just question after question after question. I remember one time I was trying to leave from lunch, and he said, I just have one more question. And then maybe another variant on the trolley problem where it's there's a trolley, there are 5 serial killers and 5 nuns on the trolley. And it's on a loop, and there are 15 people, 10 people on the track. Yeah. And if you don't blow up the trolley, it'll keep going forever. And I don't even remember, but that was the first of 8 variations that he tried to get my opinions on before I left, 20 minutes later. So, very ambitious, very persistent. Another ambitious and persistent person is Jessica. Jessica just wants to know things. So on day 2, she was just sort of hounding me, no, I want a reading list about evolutionary debunking arguments, which is an area that I sort of have some expertise in. And I just should have said no, because as soon as I sent her one reading list, then every time she found a new topic, she was no, I need material on this. So, now we have a long email chain full of links. So, but anyway, and then there was one time where I was sitting at a table and all the seats were taken, but Jessica did not let that stop her. So she climbed up on the radiator next to me and sort of laid down sideways so that her head was just adjacent to my plate. And while I was eating, she just started firing off questions about dualism. She's no, what book should I read about dualism? So yes, that's what we want. You know, maybe minus the lying sideways on the radiator part, but the energy, that, hold on to that. That will serve you well. So, you know, thank you guys.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I am a PhD student at the University of Chicago studying philosophy. And yeah, I mean, I want to second everything that everyone else said. I mean, the enthusiasm, the like philosophical innovation and energy is just amazing. And it's hard to think about what I can add to this. I mean, one thing is, I love the persistence that some of you have on some questions, and I saw the work that you guys were putting into the oral exams and the group projects. It was like every single day leading up to the oral exam, someone would come up to me and say like, can I get your objections to my oral exam? I know how hard you all prepared, and like every like exchange that I had was so positive. Like I was very impressed by the strength of everyone's arguments. Sometimes someone would have a claim that seemed like really obvious to me, and then in the way that they argued for it, I was like, oh, this is actually a really interesting argument. Or vice versa, there'd be a claim where I was like, okay, no way. And then in the argument, I would get kind of convinced, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, and I guess I also want to single out the way that you guys have learned to talk to each other about philosophy is so positive and so inspiring. Like when I was teaching my classes this morning, teaching consciousness to Anscombe, like when multiple people would start to talk at the same time, I like wouldn't even have to intervene. You guys would just like work it out between yourselves who was gonna go first, and it was really respectful, extremely convivial. 2 thumbs up, that was awesome. And also, taking the time to get clear on a philosophical issue and like really think it through instead of just like having your first thought immediately. I really have seen you guys develop that skill, and it's like really positive. So I want to congratulate you all. Great 2 weeks.
Thank you. The student testimony?
Yeah, any students who want to come
Just
up?
come up if you want. Come up if you want.
Up and share a word, share a
Come on, some of you have thoughts. Don't be scared. Let's say what you guys want. Come on. Vamos! Woo! Vamos!
That's good, you can start.
No, you can start.
You can go. I think I don't have anything planned.
This is a great camp. I came here because I got a YouTube ad, and the first question they asked, no, not the question, the first sentence they said was, I'm not sure if God exists, but I'm sure you should come to this camp. Okay. I suppose I must. After that, I was watching one of my favorite YouTubers' videos. I don't know who it is, who it could be, but he was saying, welcome to Reason and Rationality. Today we'll have a debate, and I was like, Joe Schmidt is coming to this camp, and I kind of had I was kind of scared of like every single one of you. Every single one of you smart people. I was like, oh my god, they're gonna tear me apart. It's like, I made this analogy, and I know I made two actually, but it's like an underage driver getting a cop car pulled up beside them, and you look them in the eyes, and you think they're gonna you think they're gonna put a ticket on you. But it's like, hey, by the way, your taillight was on. You might want to change that. Like, you guys are just so helpful, so fun, and also like all of you suck. So.
Okay, fine. Whatever. So I think that the thing that I would want to talk the most about right now is what happened on the very first day, which is going to consist of a lot of Jessica in the story. Which I'm doing specifically because she's not up here right now. So, well, aside from the fact that we were playing catch with rocks that we found on the ground for like an hour straight beforehand, I remember that we all decided to go down to the basement, and we need to find a place to talk about. Because Jessica really wanted to know what my opinion was on the fine-tuning argument, and she just would not stop. You can get back up here if you want to. But Jessica just really wanted to know my opinion on the fine-tuning argument and the problem of evil. She was apparently very distressed by the fact that they both seemed like very good arguments for opposing views. And so we decided that we were just, well, I think Jessica actually decided, and we just followed her, into a random room in the basement where all the laundry was kept. And we all just sat down, and we all just like spent like the next like hour talking about. Ashley was there also, and it was the three of us who were all talking about these problems. And that kind of set the tone for what happened because well, the next day, Jessica ended up pulling an all-nighter and talking because she was just talking to people. She started talking to me, and I had to cut her off at like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Lame, by the way, lame-o.
Okay, fine. Anyway, no, this is my turn. You gave the flight. So,
I will
fine.
say.
So, you didn't seem like it before.
Oh my
But anyway, yeah. So I think, yeah, like me and her sat together at like lunch all the time with pretty much everyone who's sitting in that front row, this side, and yeah, oh yeah, she would always get up and leave and go to the table with them also, just halfway through, and then she would come back. But yeah, I think that those first 2 days very much set the story for what happened pretty much every night afterwards. And the fact that there's this book that I was planning on reading that was very good, and I never got a single every time I went to go pull out the book, I'm not kidding, every time I pulled it out, Jessica came and knocked on my door and started asking to talk to me. So I have not started that book yet because of her. And it was every day. I tried at least one time every day. And it got interrupted by Jessica trying to talk to
It
me.
was A Secret History by Donna Tartt, which is a book that everyone here should read. All of Donna Tartt's books. But
Apparently
I
not
just
me.
want to say that the atmosphere that you guys create in this camp is so incredible. Like the thing is, like, I do try to sleep. I do try to sleep. I try my best here. The thing is, like, you talk to someone, and the way that you teach us to talk, it's like a time vortex.
How much did you sleep last night?
I slept at 4 a.m.
What were you talking about?
Love and romance.
Great.
The greatest topic.
Jessica, it was 5.
It was 5?
Five?
Jessica 5, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
You woke me up at 3.
Alright, so if you care about your child's sleep, so would you not send them to this camp? But if you care about your intellectual curiosity, then send them to this camp. Because like it's just so beautiful the way you guys teach us to talk and listen and speak all the time, speak every thought. Anyway, I'm done now.
She became a
On what Jessica just said about sleep,
there's
There's no sleep.
yeah,
There's
there's
not.
a highlight.
It makes everyone more insightful.
Yeah, exactly.
Jessica, stop.
There's just something about like this place that it's just like, I don't know, yes, something about the time, but also just like even just like if we're talking about meals or whatever, just like talking to the instructors, you guys are amazing by the way.
Yeah.
Just like you guys are so fun to talk to like at meals and stuff, and we just learn so much just from like talking. And the linens room is a really great place
Yes,
to
the
do
linens
that.
room, the linens room.
You cleared out the
You
laundry
weren't
and
there that
put it
first
later.
day.
I wasn't there the first day, but I
Okay.
was there after.
More on the instructors. I think I speak for all of us when I say that we all really appreciate how you would stay after classes were over and during meals just to like hear what we had to say and talk to us and hold office hours and stuff, and that really like enriched our experience.
And get henna in the basement on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember there was this one night that we had a lecture, and then it usually starts with Jessica here,
Yeah, it
but
usually
Jessica
does.
asked Joe to, I think it was to prove theism to her. We ended up, yeah, we ended up sitting right here. There were like a couple of us here, and we were sitting there for about an hour and a half after the lecture had ended, and we had to text the group leaders that we were missing, like that we were going to be late to come home by curfew because we were having philosophical conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, they put up with so much because we're constantly asking them everything. Also, you said that the next night, after like the second night,
Yeah.
Jessica pulled an all-nighter.
Said that, yeah.
That was in my room.
Oh, yeah.
Ethan really helped me out. But yeah, it's just,
How
this
late-
is such a magical place.
The night after the all-nighter, you still stayed up for 3 hours after that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love Syria. So
Me?
yeah.
Okay.
Go Toby.
I don't know where to start, but I'd say, first, thank you all the group leaders, because, you guys actually stayed basically all night.
Yeah.
We went to James' room and then just knocking. I feel like the best thing I had was just building relations and then talking about the topic and just our interests, like in every field. I feel like, it's like philosophy and then stems from philosophy, returns to philosophy. You know, it. Yeah, but yeah, every talk I had was just pure joy. You know. But yeah.
X equals not X. X equals not
Yeah, I'm discussing a more formal logic. And
Anyway, enjoy everyone.
When I got here, I didn't know a gosh darn thing about philosophy. I don't know. Why sign up to a campus as foundations when you have a whole row of people who should not be in the foundations class going to get advanced? Okay, but now I have a 12-foot long reading list just because of all the things these people and these people have said to me over 2 weeks, and I will be getting on that immediately. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, to start, Noah, I am so sorry I kept you from eating for 20 minutes. I was genuinely curious. Thank you for answering my questions. Second of all, Amos, I don't know how you did that card trick, but I swear I'm gonna find out. Like, he like made it appear in my hand when I grabbed another one. It was insane. But the main thing I want to say is that, so I was told about this camp by my parents, and I was like very excited to come here because like first of all, like Princeton, you know, like getting to check that out, especially as like a rising sophomore, so getting like a jump start on the game. Yeah, I'm a rising sophomore. Surprise. For another thing, I also always had like a pretty large interest in philosophy, so I was very excited to come here. And the experience definitely did not disappoint. I have learned so many like new things here, especially from the amazing instructors. Yeah. The silence is deafening. Anyway, so yeah, I've learned so many new things, and I was very happy to be here. And as other people said before, like the community here is just absolutely amazing. I think there was like one point where I was literally part of just like 3 different groups at once because of how inclusive everybody is here. Like, you definitely won't feel left out at all. Like, that was something that I wasn't like expecting, but I was really pleasantly surprised. Like, everyone here is just so nice and inclusive. And also, like, as people have said before, the instructors put up was just so much of our stuff, especially me. I asked a lot of questions, and I probably did 4 holes in like all of their brains at some point. Sorry. But just the main thing I wanted to say is thank you so much for what you've done for us, and like I'm so grateful to have had this experience.
Guys, I want to thank all the different perspectives in this room. It's really interesting to learn about how everybody thinks about the world. It really changes your perspective. And if everybody had the same view, nobody would learn anything. But getting to talk about different issues with different types of groups from everywhere around the country really changes things and puts issues to light. And I would also like to thank the professors here who make the classes so interesting and lively. And I just love how we also get to talk to them at lunch. And we just engage in such interesting conversations about such great issues around the world, such as US politics, the Iran war, and many other complicated issues, such as whether God exists and the problem of evil. All these things together just create a really interesting program that you really learn a lot from and take away a lot from.
So obviously, this is a great camp, good topics. Thank you to the instructors and the counselors for running it so well and providing all these opportunities. But I think my sort of praise of the camp could be described with more like a moment than rather a description. And I'll just bring you back to, I think, maybe like 2 or 3 days into the camp, I'm at like lunch or dinner, and I think Noah, other people, and I are like talking about how like Protestants versus other religious denominations, Christian denominations, view the Bible and like the different interpretations.
So we're all me and Noah are kind of like on the anti-Protestant side. And I just see it like out of nowhere, Amos comes from the side and says, "Look at these Protestants, they're always taking our scripture." And I felt like that was when I knew I was in the right place. So I don't know where else in the country I could have had a discussion about like Buddhist sorcerers fighting, and they know what that sort of is about at a serious level. So thanks for running the camp so well, and it was great to be here.
Alright, so when I came to this camp, it was because I had found out about Mr. Schmidt's channel. I've been in that subject for a while, I've been studying philosophy for a while, but when I came here it was quite different. It was not just Mr. Schmidt, even though, Joe, I like our conversations, okay? But there was like a whole plethora of things, all the professors, such like very unique people from different backgrounds, like different sorts of strengths as well. It was great talking to even like Harry. Like, I talked to you a lot. I know I probably kept you from having a lot of sleep, but like it was very interesting. Lots of different topics, stuff like Roman poetry to like, Pascal's wager. Amos, always bringing the energy, yelling silence at us. Like that just really wakes us up, especially being the sleep schedule. Also, excellent Trump impressions. Can we give him a round of All right, Sagar, I think perhaps the best dialectically, maybe.
Wow.
And, I don't want to feel like over other people. The reason why I say this is just because information really interesting, talking about like Buddhist philosophy, that like nothing ever happens. Like Pope Leo the 13th or something. But also like in class as well, like consciousness, these sorts of issues. I think we got pretty. I felt like I could have given more on like the oral exam, but it's fine. Always got to talk to you. I especially enjoyed like stalking you guys at night when you're going to like restaurants and that sort of thing. So thank you for letting me do that. Joe, let me go back to Flo for that. I forgot you feel so much like an adult, these people. Anyway. Well, it's like you're working, I don't know. Anyways, like very professional. So Flo, like very interesting sort of interactions that we have in lunch, talking about Kant. Like the philosophy is great. Sort of the doctrine is great. I just think that like Kant can be pretty dogmatic, but anyways, like learning about it is still pretty. Okay. I don't think I will, but also like maybe one of the most funny, like in terms of like dry humor. I don't know, really interesting sense of humor. I'll just say that. Back to Noah. Noah, weird energy. It's good though. I like the energy. Maybe we could like address Pope John afterwards, like John the 12th. But anyways, I love talking. I wish we could talk more. I wish we could talk more to everybody, but I wish we could talk more. Yes, thank you. Joe, it's been. I feel like we have a parasocial relationship for like the past 3 years, but finally it's like a normal relationship.
Vamos.
Yes. Excellent spirit. Just like spirit of truth, spirit of intellectual virtue. Can't find it anywhere else. Also great Zizek impression. So thank you. I was sort of belabored. Probably shouldn't have done that. Students, excellent students. Lots of energy.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. I love talking about the symposium. I know we never got to do the symposium, but maybe next time we'll get to do that. And ancient Greek philosophy, Kant, Aristotle, the best. Eugenia as well. I'm sorry, I just don't want to take up all the time, You guys are great. Okay, back to the students. About the students, love the energy, love I enjoyed that I finally got to meet another Nietzschean. Though I wouldn't consider myself a Nietzschean. I think he's too Foucauldian. That will be fixed in time. As he matures and gets older. Anyways, Helena, in class, great stuff. I liked the weird things that we did at night. Interesting. everywhere that you can like find out a lot of things from, and it's pretty great. And then as regards what it was for me, I just thought it was really great to have a philosophical commune. You know how like certain philosophers that are really nerdy, they like want to have that as like a thing, but it can never happen because that doesn't exist in like the real world. But it exists here, so that was great, and it was great. And I hope to come back as well. Hope to continue, get some connections, you know. So thank you. Great.
That's it for Reason and Rationality 2026. Unless anybody wants to do a Trump impression, if anybody wants to.